right, good evening. Welcome to the Farron Dozier show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website and nbrradio.us. We got to bless the show before we get started. Let's go. When I was in my mother's womb, I had a calling on my life to do something in the glory of God and marry it like a wife. Commit myself to his word and never be led astray. And when it's all over, when he comes, I'll be glad to see that day in the morning time.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at nbradio.us.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the Farron Dozier show right here on KCAA Radio and nbrradio.us. Make sure you go get the apps. KCAA Radio has an app. Also, NBR Radio has an app as well. So if you get those apps, you can catch us streaming across all platforms right from your phone. If you're in Los Angeles or in the IE, Moreno Valley, Riverside County areas, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. And we're also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website at kcradio.com. Click listen live or watch live. Today's episode is another very important conversation. It is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and this is our last episode for June, but not the last episode, of course, that we will be addressing men's mental health. Very important for me as I've been on my own journey dealing with my issues of life, perception. I'm starting to understand it more as my perception. And if you look at your life as a child, what is the perception of life for a child? It's not. It's mainly I want your time as my parent. I want your time. Children don't care about your money. They don't care about any of that. They want your time. So those first few years of that child's life is going to be very important for our time. If you don't believe so, just look in your own life and see how you think about your parents and how your perception of your parents are. We love our parents, but sometimes they get on my. I feel like I'm not enough. I feel like I'm not good enough. I'm not worth it. But what does that come from? It comes from usually sometimes something in the past, from an experience, a disappointment in a parent. And so one of the things that we want to help make sure is that people start to, do some self-examination, some self-reflection, and stop blaming people. It's easy to blame others, but it's a different life to be causing the matter and take responsibility for your life at some point, right? So the Bible talks about honoring your father and your mother. Again, it doesn't say love your father and mother. It says honor them. Honor is how you think about them, the heart of how you think about them, right? And so we can pretend like we love them, and we can pretend and we can act like it, even do things for them. However, what is in your heart when your mouth is closed and your thoughts are thinking and you're telling yourself, thinking about your parents, whatever that alt is, whatever that wedge is, where did that come from? And if you don't discover that, you're going to realize that it plays out in your life. And if you have that alt against your mom and dad, how do you expect to have relationships with anybody else, even yourself? So that's something that's important to me. I will be talking to Alan. Emmanuel will be here shortly as we get into the next segment around men's mental health. But before I do, as I have announced, finally, the Ventura Orcas are going to be launching this year for the first season, finally. And yes, it's like having a new baby. It's like having a new child and giving birth to this child. I imagine what a woman feels, and then the responsibility to take this from nothing but a territory and now build everything: infrastructure, support staff, marketing, but also coaches, players. I got to get new uniforms. Like we have zero. We're starting from ground zero. So I have today on the show with me this first part to discuss, just so you can get a sense of it for those who are going to be our new fan base in the Ventura County area, of what it takes to start a team, some of the things that we're going to need, some of the support conversations that we're going to need from you if you're interested. For me, basketball is is behind the scenes, but also I realize that this is entertainment too. So, right, we talk about having entertainment as a basketball, but the platform for me is just as important because we're going to be able to talk about some critical things in the community. I have some things I want to bring to the table. I know there's some things in Ventura County that you want to talk about on how we can just make our community better, or at least alter our community so that it's more productive, that there's some communication. There's, even though there's like 2%, 3% blacks in Ventura County, those that community is high on the deficiency list. That's one of the things that I worked with Project 50 around, is what is that thing that our culture deals with as a black community. For me, it's more of a health and safety conversation with my sickle cell trait, with the mental health talks, with the curriculum that we're going to have coming into the Rio School District that we're working with as a partnership. Those are the things that we're going to be talking about. Mental health, veteran suicide. I'm a veteran, so we got some veteran conversations. We got some health and safety conversations. But whatever you want to talk about too in Ventura County, you're going to be able to bring that to us. Use our platform, have some sponsors, have some games, address these conversations in the community. But I wanted to ask Al Smith to come on and just kind of give a overview of what it looks like for a new team to launch an ABA franchise. So what's happening? You're on mute. How you doing?
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. How's it
It's
going?
all right. Everything's good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Glad to be on. I appreciate the invite.
Appreciate you. Thank you for taking some time out this evening, as not just the chair but the owner of an ABA basketball team for many years now. So introduce yourself to the listeners, and then we'll have a discussion real quick.
So my name is Al Smith. I own the Nova Stars of Southern California. We just rebranded the name this year. It used to be the Orange County Nova Stars, but we're rebranding to the Nova Stars of Southern California, or Nova Stars SC, or Nova Stars SoCal. And I also am the regional chairman for the ABA on the West Coast. So I cover all of the teams in the Western region of the ABA.
So from the owner's perspective, what can people kind of start to relate to, what it's going to take to launch this team?
So I mean, for a new team getting off the ground the first year, trying to get started, it's essential to get started early in the off season, right? Because what you have to do is build your brand. You have to build your brand. You have to build your community. You have to build awareness. You got to let them know that you exist and you're going to bring some excitement to the community, as well as some community support. So you got to get out there during this off season in these summer months, make some relationships with local businesses, try and get in with city council members, possibly get on one of their dockets or something like that, or get in their announcements to kind of get out to the city and let the city know that you'll be launching your team this year. You'll be playing professional basketball at XYZ venue. So, I mean, you got to get that really laid properly as a new team. If you do that, you'll have more success. Okay. Then you got to go out and find players, right? Well, I mean, I'll even back it up. You got to start out by finding a place to play, right?
Right.
You need to find a venue first, right? So that way you'll know where you're building, so you can build around that venue, around that community. Okay. And you got to find players. So you have to host tryouts to find out, where the players are. You have to actually get out and visit some local leagues as well, so you can see where the high value players are. Okay. Because they don't necessarily always respond to tryout advertisements.
Okay.
Those guys are really on a trail looking to try and go overseas, and they are looking for scouts. They're looking for agents. They're not necessarily looking for ABA tryouts or tryouts at our level. They're looking for overseas tryouts, things like that. G League tryouts. So for us to get out and reach players, we actually have to do some footwork as well as host tryouts.
For sure.
You got to build up your presence on social media, because right now all of the younger generation is on social media. They're either TikToking or Instagramming or Facebooking. You know,
Mhm.
the younger group is on Snapchat and a couple other platforms. But as far as from a business standpoint and a team, you kind of have to pick the platforms that best suit what your demographic target is. And it
Mhm.
seems that Instagram is the best platform for the target right now, just
Yeah.
based on my history and performance of my team and performance of my social media presence. So, but you got to build it. It takes a while. I mean, when I first started out, you're only going to be getting 1 or 2 likes here and there, and you're going to wonder where's everybody at, why nobody
Right.
notices you. And, but it's been about 12 years for me now. And there's one post that I got going still right now that's up to about 30,000 views.
Oh
So
wow.
that one's decent for, our level of basketball and our level of fan base. Those are pretty strong numbers. So we're just trying to really take the positives and build on the positives as we're trying to also build the league, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at everything going on with my team, the things that I do, the success that I see with my team, and I'm trying to make sure to bring that to the rest of the teams around the region on the West Coast. Okay.
Right.
Because if we're all sharing the success stories that we see and we can duplicate those successes in each market, then we'll all be doing something that sponsors want, which is working together to be a voice and be a strong brand throughout the region, not just in our local markets, right?
Yeah.
But that's really what it takes on the basic level to just start the foundation of your team. There's a lot more involved than just that, but just the basics to get started. You need a place to play. You got to start getting some players on board, and then you got to get out in the community and let them know where you are. Start getting some tickets
What's
sold.
what's the challenge with the players, because and and there's different dynamics when people say, "Oh, well, I want to play in the ABA, but am I going to get paid?" Like, what do you say to players that come to the league that want to start off with a paycheck?
Well, what I say to them first is, where have you played before? Where you received the paycheck? That's the first question I want to know. Since you're asking me for a payment, where have you been paid before? That question usually stops a lot of the inquisitive minds from the players that are really testing the waters, because that's really what it is. They're testing the waters to see what is available, because in our league you got some of that happening in some markets, right? Some teams do have some sponsors where they're getting some dollars to be able to help players with gas, or help players with just the basics. So they're getting maybe $100 a game, $50 a game. Some of them might even get as much as $200 because they're high end players, high
Right.
profile, high
Right.
visibility. They're capable of bringing in fans, so they may get a little bit more money. But those are just the teams that are in a position to do that. It's either going to come from having a good off season and getting a good sponsor to be able to provide that, or it's going to come from the players themselves. See, a lot of people don't
Mhm.
realize that the players can make their own money in this league. It's just that
Yeah.
a lot of teams don't have a platform set up for them to make their own money, or the players are not motivated enough to do the work that it takes to make their own money,
Yeah.
which goes back to some, morals and how you were brought up, on what's important and how to make sure that you do keep some money in your pocket, and how you do the things that will keep you in a position to always be looked at as high value, right? Because those
Yeah.
players are looked at as higher value, even if they're not high performers on the court.
Mhm.
If they have a brand of their own, they're able to sell tickets. They're able to go out and attract sponsors, right? Those are valuable players to a professional team. So a professional team owner will make a space for that player.
Right.
You know, whatever's going on, I can make him fit in around my guys.
Right.
Okay. I got enough guys that are high end or high value that I can probably give him some minutes on the court and give him some burn because he's value to the team. I got to keep him happy, right?
Yeah.
And he's probably doing more to bring revenue to the team than some of my top players. Okay. So those are other dynamics that we all have to consider when it comes to building as an owner. Some of the players don't understand that because all they think it's about is, hey, I'm better than that guy. But they need to learn. It's not only that. You know, there's more to it. There's a lot of guys in college at the D1 level that don't get drafted to the NBA. That's really good
Right.
and
Right.
probably better than some of those that got drafted as we saw this season.
Exactly. Right. We
But it
just seen
happens.
that in real time.
Yeah, it happens.
Um,
So
finding a coach, you know, same dynamic.
finding a coach is different, you know. That was tough because coaches they're tough to match up for the right caliber of what you need for this type of league, right?
Mhm.
Because our league requires a little bit of travel. You're dealing with adults. The coaches have to keep everybody in line. It could be a journey for someone to be coaching an ABA team. So you have to really find the right guy. There's a lot of good coaches out there that are available, but it's like, you know, do they want to jump on this ABA journey and coach in that capacity? So
Yeah.
that's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
And I'm gonna let you go with this. As the chair dealing with owners, I can only imagine what that's like. How do you manage that? Overseeing,
Wow.
especially our division over here on the West.
Um, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but I've kind of gotten used to it because, you know, I've done it for a while now. Um, but it's a challenge because you have different opinions of how business is conducted, right? And when you're trying to have everyone work on a uniform stage to do things together, then what ends up happening is when you have those clashes of the difference of opinions of how to do business, it's tough to bring those owners into the fold and get them moving at the same speed with the rest of the group, right?
Right.
That's the toughest challenge, I believe, I would say, as the chairman or as a leader in this particular league with so many different personalities, right?
Right.
I believe my last count was 26 owners in this region right now for the teams that we have. I think we had like 28 active teams.
Yeah.
So it's somewhere up in there. Yeah, we're over 20 different personalities. Let's just call it that. Close to 25 different personalities in this region. For where we are right now, I would say we're doing a really good job. Um, just to kind of give you an idea, I would say 18 of those owners have been moving at the same speed, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, in relation to we have a huge majority of the region operating in a uniform fashion, we're doing really well because
Mhm.
the other 7 or 8 or 5 or 7, they're not far behind, you
Yeah.
know. So it's not like they're just completely off the grid. It's just that right now those are the group of owners that are really on pace, working at our speed when it comes to hitting our goals and milestones that we've set up. So that's really good, you know, looking at a group of people like that working individually in different cities throughout this region, you know, different areas, and
Yeah.
we're all working together and we're on the same page. That's a pretty remarkable task to accomplish, and the only challenge It's just the clash of personalities on what someone's opinion is on how they want to move their business forward,
For
right?
sure.
Because this league is unique in a way where we allow owners to be independent and operate independently, right? So they can maximize their market. We expect that they know the pulse of their community better than anybody. So
Right.
we want to give that flexibility for them to be able to take advantage of what they know from their community, right? But over time and over the years, we realize that even given that freedom, we still have to have some uniformity in the middle of that. And that's
Right.
where we are with this year, with some changes that we put in place, and then being able to have a great start to season 2024-25 with as many teams as we have. You know,
Yeah.
we're going to start the season with a jump off tournament. That's going to be exciting. I mean, already seeing the dynamics there with just the teams that are interested in participating. I got a lot of teams that's right at the door, man, with their race engines ready to go. But, you know,
Yeah.
hey, it's first come. So, and everybody's working to be the first. We still
Right.
got some people that need to take care of business to be in there, but there's openings right now. But we're getting to the point where there's probably 12 to 14 teams that want to be in it, and we only got 10 slots.
Yeah.
Right
I
now
know
it's
it.
8. But if we want to
I
extend it to 10, 10 is going to be max.
I gotta send mine in so we can secure our seat for sure. So thank you for that. Lastly,
Yeah.
this is part of the NBR Radio, my military community. So I want to acknowledge you for your service. Talk about a little bit about your career, so our other veterans can hear, who you are.
Oh man. So my military career was a little bit different. I joined the military at 19. It was interesting because I joined the military because I was young. I had got my girlfriend pregnant, and my buddy had told me, because he had just signed up and he was married, him and his wife, they were about to have a child. It's
Yeah.
like, man, I just joined the Army National Guard because, I could have my baby at the VA for free. I said, what? And we young, responsible young boys
Right, of
trying to
course.
develop into young men. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, that's kind of cool because I'm working at McDonald's right now and I'm about to have a kid, and McDonald's ain't going to pay for these bills, you know? So I'm like, man, let me go talk to this recruiter. Let me sign up. So I did. And when I signed up and I started talking, I was like, yeah, man, my buddy told me it was cool. Veterans get to have their kids at the VA. And he was like, oh, yeah. Recruiter's going to try and get you in, man. Oh, yeah, you definitely. When you're ready,
Of course, of
you and your
course, of
wife
course.
just go down to the VA. I'm like, you and your what? He said, yeah, you and your wife. Y'all married, ain't you? I was like, nah, man. I said, that ain't going to happen. So I guess we just going to have to foot it out. So, so that was it. So now my motivation for being in the military was to make some money, right? Because I wasn't about to be married and I still had to pay for this kid, right? So when I got in, it was all about making rank, because that's the way to the money. I follow the money path. Okay, so I get out, I go back to Arkansas, and there's a military academy in Arkansas where they teach courses. I started teaching pre-basic, which is a weekend course. Teach some weekend courses that get guys ready to go to basic training prepared, and they got like a 2-week head start on the rest of the troops. So I was teaching that course. That course got me on a fast track. I got promoted real quick. Then I started teaching PLDC, Primary Leadership Development. Need that for E5, right? So, and I'm an E4 teaching the class. So I'm E4 promotable, but I had to wait time and service to get E5. Time and service came around. I was there. It was nothing. The slots was open. I got promoted. This is all happened in the first year, right? I started as E1. And so after this, now I'm teaching BNOP, which is the next level leadership course, right? And then I get promoted to E6. And now after promoted to E6, I'm teaching ANOP, right? So I'm only 2.5 years in the military at this point, and I'm an E6 teaching courses at the military academy. Got a squad at my headquarters, right?
Oh, that's tight.
That I manage. So I'm a youngster with this responsibility, and just learning, and the dynamics of teaching classes in the military is that you get everybody. You get the older guys, the younger guys, the females, the older females, the younger females. So talking about managing personalities. I was doing that since I was 20,
Right,
right?
right, right.
And so I guess I was already accustomed to managing the personalities in the region because of the courses that I used to teach,
For
right?
sure.
So
For
that's a little
sure.
bit of background of my military experience. I stayed in for 12 years and I got out because when I moved to Southern California, the slots to get promoted was so packed. And I'm an
Yeah.
E6 now and been an E6 for most of my career. It's like,
Yeah.
man, I was on the
Not,
money trail. This ain't happening. The only way
right.
I can
Not
make
right
money
now.
now is get married and have a kid, another kid. Like, nah. So I'm looking at every way to make money, and that's the only way to make money, getting that kind of pay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I got out, and then I started doing finance. Doing limited
Cool.
partnerships, corporate notes, got my license to do that. Then jumped over to real estate, got those license, and did real estate. And that was the last of the career paths that I chose. And I did real estate for about 26 to 27 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Man, thanks for your time, man. I really appreciate you for hanging on and giving this audience, my new fan base, just some background of what it's going to look like. So, man, thank you for your time tonight.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.
All right, no doubt. Thanks. All right, this is the Farron Dozier Show. We're going to go and pay these bills, and then we're going to come right back because we got some men's mental health to talk about. I got a list. We're just going to hit some bullet comments because this is the final round for the month. So Alan Emmanuel is here. We're going to hit these ABC 1, 2, 3 right down the line. I hope you got your notepad out because we're going to come back next month and elaborate on some of these points. But these are some of these key points that I saw. And I was like, you know what? We need to touch on these real quick. So this is how we're going to wrap up the month. Again, thank you for tuning and listening in. Hey, this is what it is.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes. In moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Do you remember studying sickle cell in biology class? What's the Count on Sickle Cell Trait Prevention is here to bring you awareness, education, and prevention conversations around the risk factors of this inherited gene. Visit wdconsct.org.
Muchos de nosotros nos vemos afectados por la enfermedad de células falciformes a diario y un número creciente simplemente no nos damos cuenta. Los impactos de esta enfermedad afectan a todas las personas y en especialmente a las personas de color y con antecedentes diversos. Estar en servicio conmigo y con los demás a medida que creamos una mayor conciencia sobre cómo identificar y dirigir el tratamiento de los rasgos de células falciformes y ayudar a las familias a saber cómo superar el trastorno de células falciformes.
You're listening to The Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM in the Inland Empire. Also streaming from the KCAARadar.com website, MBR Radio, TuneIn Radio, Pandora, Google Play, Blog Talk Radio, iHeartRadio, Podcast, Stitcher, Amazon Radio, just to list a few. Oh yeah, and the streaming videos are located at Tiki Live or Rumble under The Farron Dozier Show. Catch us live or catch us on the archives at The Farron Dozier Show. Shout us out, what's the count? Visit farrond.com for more information. All right, welcome back to The Farron Dozier Show. This is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. If you missed the previous episodes, you just got to go back and catch Alan Emanuel, the happiness coach, has been my partner, my teammate in this, man, and I really appreciate this dude. We've been friends for many years in our sickle cell community. We met through Phyllis, God rest her soul, back in about 2011 or so, and yeah, we just been at it. He got his PhD, he got his degrees out the way, man, and so we get to talk about some real life. And I got backup now, so now that I got backup, this is how we get it in. Hold on, let me see something. Alan's still here. Alan, do you want to come on stage, man? Because we're gonna have some men's talk. He's still hanging in there. You want to hang out with us tonight?
No, I was trying to mess around and set up some stuff on this thing. I was just hanging out. I didn't even know I was still in the lobby, bro.
All right, we're just checking because you was in the waiting room, man. I just wanted to see if you had something to say about Men's Mental Health Month or not.
My bad, man. I mean, I appreciate it, but I was just hanging out doing some stuff on this laptop. But I'll get out of this lobby so I don't confuse you.
No, you're good. You're good. Appreciate you though. Thank you.
All right.
Hey, what's up?
What's going on?
Man, look,
First of all, thank you for your patience. And
no, you good. You good.
You know, it's great to cover people, so I appreciate the covering. Oh man. Yeah, Men's Mental Health Awareness Month is coming to a close. First of all, I have to say that I did complete all of my doctoral work, but I did not get that degree. So thank you very much for giving me that. It's a master's still. But I am a licensed professional counselor. So
I got it. Hey, it is what it is, man.
It is what it is. But no, I'm very excited to be here because I see all of the pieces coming together when we have these conversations around all of I know you had given me this list and I'm like, let's hit the list and let's make people know that there's so much more to mental health than just anxiety and depression.
Right.
Because the truth is, like, most of us are experiencing things and we don't know what to call it. And when you don't know what to call it, you don't know what to fix. So, so the good news is, yes, there's help. There's always help. The first step in getting that help is knowing what you're dealing with. So yeah, I'm just coming from the gym.
You gotta be willing.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm excited to have this conversation, Farron, because I think that we are definitely in a place where there's this kind of there's a movement towards getting men more aware of their mental health. That's a wonderful thing. But along with that idea that, men's mental health, you gotta become more active with your mental health. There are also a lot of myths around what do these things mean? Does it mean I'm crazy? How am I gonna, you know what I mean? So there's still, just like with sickle cell disease, there's a stigma around mental health. If I have to go to the hospital for my mental health, does that mean that something's wrong with me? So it's just, there's so many conversations that really, honestly, to do it in an hour, it's hard, it's a lot of work, but we can at least give people some hope that there are ways to start to navigate through the different areas that they may be struggling with and what to do. So I'm gonna let you hit some of these areas and you tell me.
Yeah, so I just want you to like just fire a couple of shots at them. When I give you the context, I just want you to, first thing comes to mind, just like pop, 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 just shoot them down. All right?
Yeah.
Ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it. Let's do it.
So the first one is, do men get abused?
I'm so glad you said that. The answer is absolutely, positively yes. And not only do men get abused, but there isn't just one kind of abuse. That's another part of that conversation that needs to be had, because most people think of abuse, they think of physical abuse. And yes, men do get physically abused. You can be a man who is physically abused. That happens. Yeah. It is a thing. We need to get rid of that myth that it's not a male thing, it's a female thing. Does it happen more to females? Yes. But does it happen to men as well? Yes. and it is not, there's no stigma on it. If somebody is being violent towards you in a physical way, it's not acceptable. But there are other forms of abuse, right? When you think about there's sexual abuse, which oftentimes we don't talk the same way we talk for a male being abused as a kid than we do for a female being abused. We need to get rid of that stigma and the myth around men cannot be abused or boys cannot be abused. It's girls. It's 1976, and so we're gonna get rid of old mentalities, and today in 2024 we're doing it different, right? So there's something interesting that I like to bring up whenever we talk about abuse, and that is elder abuse. Elder abuse is one of those things that people don't know about because they don't realize it's a form of abuse, but it's literally one of the forms of abuse we see. So people can not understand. There's financial abuse. A lot of people don't even know that. There's, you can be in a relationship where everything is fine, but financially, if you are not aware of money that's being taken away from you, a lot of times people with, illnesses like dementia and Alzheimer's, they start to lose their ability to be in control of their own finances. And the person who may be the caretaker or maybe a family member can abuse them, right? I think that's one of those conversations. If I'm not wrong, I think there was a conversation like that around even the former president, which we don't have to get into. But I think it happens, is what I'm saying. It actually happens. Where
all right, we got 9 more. So I just want you to shoot them down.
I don't want to forget. One of the biggest ones men miss is verbal abuse. Verbal abuse is essentially, it's you're in a relationship, you're having conversation, but you feel like a lack of the ability to express yourself. And yet you're being told that you should not be able to. You can't express yourself like this. Right. And after a while, when that becomes dysfunctional in your relationship, it really creates problems. So there is such a thing as verbal abuse, being called names outside of just being embarrassed verbally. These things matter. And you need to know that, yes, you can reach out for help for those things because they should not be happening to you.
The next one is, can a man get heartbroken?
Man, so that is not necessarily an illness, right? From a mental health standpoint, but part of what you have to answer in that question, because it feels so foreign to me as a mental health professional, but I know it's real, is, do men have emotions? Because if you have emotions, your heart can feel broken. You understand? And so it's like when people don't understand that the same thing that a female can experience through her emotions, a man experiences, it's just the way in which it's processed and the responses that people give. But the same thing occurs. You understand? So when you stop having these kind of silo conversations around, well, men need to be like this and females need to be like this in order for them to be, then we could actually tell the truth about what's really happening. Because the truth is, if you think that men should not get heartbroken, you're in another century. You're in another, because the truth is, science has given us enough information to let us know that we all experience pain. We all experience hurt. We all experience these places where dysfunctional living happens as a result of the way that we are interpreting our environment, the way we interpret ourselves, the way we interact. So
okay, you got it. I got you.
Got it. All right, go ahead.
I got you. Can a man do self-harm?
Okay, so men in self-harm, a lot of times, one of the statistics that's really interesting is that what we find is that men who commit suicide, right? Because suicide is the next step of self-harm. Men who attempt suicide are more likely to actually commit the suicide than female, because it tends to be that females will claim they want to, they'll threaten it, but men tend not to speak about it and do it more.
Right.
You understand? So if it doesn't mean that if a female says it, that it's not possible she'll do it, because no, actually we know that men and women both commit suicide, right? But self-harm is the step right before that, which is that process of, I'm going to hurt myself. Some people self-harm as a way to kind of deal with pain. And so
Self-sabotage too,
well,
though.
absolutely. Keep in mind, I have this principle that I use to help remind me of this, which is the inner form reflects the outer form.
Right.
It is the idea that what happens inside what happens outside, oftentimes it has to initiate inside. So when you see self-sabotage, it is actually an internalizing of what might be harm. You understand?
I'm real good at that one.
So it's like understanding these principles so you could understand how they apply. We are so far behind when it comes to understanding men's mental health. Like what we don't understand is that when a man stops speaking, the energy still has to go somewhere. Sometimes it could go to self-harm, it could go to self-sabotage, it could go to self-mutilation. There's all kinds of hurt that happen as a result of not expressing ourselves. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm gonna do one more. We're gonna take a break and come right back.
Okay.
Can men get raped?
So the question I have to ask you is, can men have sex? Because if a person can have sex, they can be raped. You understand? Which means all human beings can be raped. That's the answer to that. Because the way that a person is raped is when they don't consent to the sexual act, right? Or they're not of an age to be able to consent, right? Or there's a disability there could be a developmental disability or a mental disability, and they're taken advantage of. And sex happens with one partner, or it's not a partner in that situation, but someone is actually enforcing their will on someone sexually. So can a man get raped? If it's not consensual, it's rape, right?
I'm gonna tell you this.
So
I'm gonna tell you this. It happens in the military just the same. Military sexual trauma for women. There's also military sexual trauma for men, and we don't talk about that. It's known.
And on college campuses, in high school, I mean, it happens. You understand? In the military, these are things. What we have to do is demystify the human experience. You understand?
Right.
And be able to say, as human beings, we experience these things.
All right. Let me see.
I wish we had more time to go into these because you know that this is not
okay. Let's do 5. Let's do this 5th one. Then we'll do the last 5 because we got a few more minutes still.
All right.
The term "man up."
That term for me means that you are devaluing a person's existence because it doesn't show up the way that you think that it should. Right? When you say man up, that means you're not man enough. These conversations need to stop. Because when you say that to a man, what you're saying that the insecurities you might have around a particular area in your life, those insecurities are all real, and you are now giving the person the reason to do the things that oftentimes show up in mental illness, which is self-harm and these things, because you are building their insecurities probably further than they are, and it's unnecessary. If you want to tell somebody be responsible, say be responsible. If you want to tell somebody, but a lot of times it comes from a person who is not self-aware. Who's actually pushing on their agenda on another human being.
Exactly. And for that note, we'll be back on the Dozier Show, KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM, MBR radio.us. Make sure you go get the apps. Go get the apps. Shout us out. What's the count?
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh,
too,
man, that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn. Are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. Do you know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait? There's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait? 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army, 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man. There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org. Well, welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM and 10. Also, on the KCA Radio.com website. We got some little technical difficulties issues right here on this laptop, but we're gonna make it work. All right. So we got 5 more key points in a short amount of time. Again, I just want you to hit these real quick. Let me get back to my list. Get back to my list real quick. And like I said, we're gonna take a deep dive in these conversations because these are lifelong things we deal with as people.
Yeah.
When you say black men heal, that for like you said before the break, you said we need to. You use a word about the human experience, right? And whatever that word that you use for me is, I'm almost tired of hearing that term, right? The black man, we got to heal. It is a human being flaw, right? Why do we think that the black men are only dealing with these kind of conversations that we're talking about? This is a human being male conversation. Why? So what does that say something to that?
Yeah. So I think there's something to consider when you're having that conversation because everything is in balance, right? The truth is, we know that across the board that there are different ways in which people are showing up because of the impact of society on them. And so there are populations that are more prone to certain things because of socialization, because of the way the world goes. So I like to hear when somebody says black men heal or black men this. I do. And I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because I think that a part of what's missing in our conversations is celebrating the differences in the way we achieve things and also the differences that can help us elevate each other where we really are. Because I will tell you this, we are different in some areas because of our experience. Now, that doesn't mean that as human beings we're different, right? We this idea that we all bleed red. But if you live in a place where certain things affect you more, and we have scientific evidence that certain things affect certain populations more in deeper ways. When you think about LGBTQ populations, you think about, black men, you think about certain areas of the country. Some people struggle more. And it doesn't mean that they are no longer in the human box. I believe that. I believe we all are
Right.
in the human box. But I believe
Right.
that because there may be pain in some areas, we should be careful not to undermine a person's pain. So, no, I don't think that Black men are the only one with pain. That's not real, right?
Right.
So let's not have that conversation and think, okay, well, we're the only ones that matter with our pain. But because of certain cultural, social, economic realities that
It
we
needs
live
to
in,
be. We have to take care of our own.
we got to think
We
about
have
that.
to.
We have to
We
think
got
about
to.
that. Even if that means that at the end of the day we could say, you know what? We should all be able to experience the good of the world, but there are some things that we're affected by that we really should have conversations around. I'll tell you this. I used to work in the prison system, and one of the things that I know from working in prison was that when I saw the men in there who are predominantly in that BIPOC, what they call, Black and brown people, there were some things that showed up that even when they showed up in other people of different cultural backgrounds, what I realized is the culture would change the way the person was allowed to respond. I'll give you an example. Two people can experience the exact same thing, and because of their upbringing, because of their culture, they can have one can be more likely not to want to speak on it. That's a block that people carry oftentimes. Because of that block, sometimes a person will think, okay, it's normal, because there are certain norms that are placed within certain cultures. What we want is we want to make sure that you are able to get freed from what you think it has to be. This is a part of what the difficulty is.
So in what you just described to me, is it safe to say that we can stop telling people that things are common sense?
Yes. Because a lot of times a person's common sense is based on their past history, their past understanding, their socialization. So common sense, right, means that we all agree. But a part of what happens is when you tell somebody, well, that's common sense, a part of what happens to that person is they say, well, I must not have it. I must not have the common sense. So it's alienating, because you're telling the person you don't belong when you common sense does occur when everyone's common. But let's be honest, do we live in a society where everyone is in the same place at the same starting line? No. So you gotta acknowledge people for that. That's a whole show, bro. But anyway,
we're gonna get into that one, because I'm tired of that term right there too. So
that's a whole show. I promise you.
We gotta
people
go,
need
but
to be freed.
We gotta go. But these are the last ones that I'm gonna say.
Okay, go ahead.
We'll deal with these later. So we know that men die by suicide. We know that men have anxiety. That's why we're here. We know men get lonely. I had to learn the difference between being alone and lonely. So we have to definitely have a conversation on that, because even though they feel the same, being alone and lonely is not the same.
They're not the same. No,
there's a perception issue to that. Men have trauma. That's why we're here talking about this. And men get depressed. That's why we're here. Alan, man, thank you for hanging out, man. I appreciate you. We got more shows to come.
Let me put this number out real quick: 1-800-715-4225 if you need help, or if you want to call 988. That's the National Suicide Hotline in case you are in a dire situation. Or 911 is always a good place, but this is particularly for mental health if you're struggling. Alan Emanuel Therapy.com if you're looking for mental health services in the state of Georgia, or if you're just simply wanting to get some coaching around the happiness or feeling like you're connected to yourself, is good. I appreciate you. AlanEmanuelTherapy.com. Y'all go check it out.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. For those listening in, shout us out. What's the account? FarronD.com. As you can see, we are out of here. Let's go.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Comago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Comago.com to learn how you can get Comago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.